Today is July 17th. It is 7 o'clock in the morning. Good morning, everyone. And welcome back to Inside Vietnam. This morning, I want to take you somewhere that many visitors overlook, but every Vietnamese person knows by heart. It is not a famous template, is not a luxury shopping mall, it is not a popular tourist attraction. Instead, we are going to a place where every new day quietly begins. The local market. If you truly want to understand Vietnam, I believe you should wake up early, at least on Salong, before the streets become crowded, long before the offices open, long before the heat of the summer arrives, because this is when you will discover the real rhythm of everyday life is. I drive through the streets this beautiful July morning. I notice the city slowly coming alive. First cafes are already serving hot Vietnamese coffee. The smell of fresh bread fills the air. Motorbikes begin appearing from every direction. Some people are heading to work, others are taking their children to school, but many are traveling to the same destination. Morning market. For millions of Vietnamese families, going to the market is more than a daily routine. It is part of their culture. Many mothers and grandmothers have followed this tradition for decades. Even wake up before 5 o'clock every morning, not because they have to, but because they believe the freshest food is always found early in the days. I arrive. The market is already full of life. Rows of colorful vegetables stretch from one end to the other. Fresh herbs release their wonderful aroma into the morning air. Bright red tomatoes sit beside green cucumbers. Purple eggplants rest beside long beans. And fresh cabbage. Everything looks alive because most of it was harvested only a few hours ago. I hear the cheerful voices of sellers greeting familiar customers. Many of them have known each other for years, some for decades. Instead of simply saying hello, they ask questions like, how is your family? How are your children? Have you eaten breakfast yet? These conversations may only last a minute, but they remind us that this market is not only about buying food, it is about staying connected. As I continue walking, I notice a woman carefully choosing fresh herbs. She gently smells each bundle before placing it into her basket. Not far away, an elderly man patiently selects the freshest fish. Another customer asks the seller for advice on what vegetables would be best for today's family meal. This is something I have always admired about traditional markets. People do not only buy ingredients, they exchange knowledge. Is sometimes even life advision. Thing that surprises many foreign visitors is how personal shopping feels. Already sellers remember your favorite vegetables. They know which fruit your children like. They remember if your parents are feeling well. Shopping becomes a conversation instead of a transaction, perhaps. That is why so many people continue coming here, even though supermarkets are becoming more kimonos. I walk deeper into the market. I notice another beautiful tradition. Many small food stalls are already crowded with customers. Some enjoy a steaming bowl of fooders. Choose bun rio or sticky rice wrapped in banana leaves. Workers sit beside office Manager students sit beside elderly couples. Everyone shares the same simple tables. For a few quiet minutes, nobody worries about work. Nobody is in a hurry. Breakfast becomes a peaceful moment before the busy day begins. The smell of fresh soup fills the air. The sound of chopsticks gently touching ceramic bowls mixes with laughter from nearby tables. This is one of those moments that cannot be created inside a modern shopping mall. It belongs only to places like this. The market also tells the story of Vietnam's seasons. In the summer, you see juicy mangoes, watermelon, and lychee. During autumn, different fruits appear. In winter, fresh vegetables from the northern mountains fill the stalls. Every season changes the colors of the market. Nature decides what people eat, and perhaps that connection with nature is one reason Vietnamese food feels so fresh. As I leave the first section of the market, I stop for a moment and simply watch the people around me. Some are carrying baskets filled with vegetables. Some are drinking coffee with old friends. Some are laughing while bargaining over just a few thousand. Vietnamese don't. Everything feels ordinary. Somehow it feels beautiful because this market is not only feeding people's stomachs, it is feeding something even more important. It is feeding a tradition that has connected generations of Vietnamese families for hundreds of years. And as we continue today's journey, let's discover why these traditional markets remain one of the most important parts of Vietnamese culture, even in a country that is changing faster every single year. Asterisk. As I continue walking through the market, I begin to notice that every section has its own personality. Own corner is filled with fresh vegetables still carrying tiny drops of morning, to another is full of tropical fruits, stacked neatly in colorful baskets. Nabi fresh seafood arrives from the coast, while fish from nearby rivers swim quietly inside large containers, waiting for customers. Everything here feels incredibly fresh. That is because many Vietnamese families still prefer buying food every morning instead of shopping once a week. It is a habit that has been passed down from generation to generation. Fresh ingredients are the heart of Vietnamese cooking. Many traditional dishes depend on vegetables, herbs, and meat that were harvested only a few hours earlier. Perhaps that is one reason Vietnamese cuisine is loved around the world. The secret is often not complicated recipes. The secret is freshness. As I slowly walk past another row of stalls, I notice something that many foreign visitors find surprising. There are very few price tags. Instead, people simply ask, "How much is this?" Seller smiles and gives a price. Sometimes the customer accepts immediate telesimities. They smile and politely ask for a better price. See, this friendly bargaining has always been part of Vietnamese market culture. It is not an argument. It is more like a conversation. Both sides usually laugh before reaching an agreement. When the deal is finished, everyone leaves with a smile. Leather is another tradition that I always enjoy watching. Many customers return to the very same seller every week, not because the prices are lower bet. Because trust has been built over many years, the vegetable seller knows exactly which herbs an elderly grandmother likes. The fish seller remembers how one family prefers their fish cleaned. The fruit seller quietly puts the sweetest mangoes aside. For loyal customers, this small acts of kindness cannot be found on a supermarket shelf. They come from relationships built over time. As I continue deeper into the market, I notice that people of every generation are here together. Young mothers carry babies in their arms, while choosing vegetables. Grandparents slowly walk from stall to stall with woven baskets. Teenagers help their parents carry heavy bags. Even young children follow closely behind, asking questions about different fruits and vegetables. With it, realizing it, they are learning traditions that have existed for hundreds of years. They learn how to recognize fresh food, how to respect older people, how to greet strangers politely, and perhaps most importantly, they learn that food is something to be shared with family. In Vietnam, preparing a meal is often a family activity. Somion washes the vegetable. Somin prepares the meat. Another cooks the rice. Irian has a small role to play. Dinner is not only about eating, it is a time when families put away their phones, sit together, and talk about their day. Many of those meals begin right here in the morning market. As the sun climbs higher, the market becomes even busier. Motorbikes arrive one after another. Restaurant owners load baskets full of herbs and vegetables. Small cafe owners buy fresh meat, seafood, and fruit before opening for breakfast. Customers for many small businesses, this market is the beginning of another working day. It supports thousands of families, not only the people selling food, but also the farmers, fishermen, drivers, and workers who wake long before sunrise to make sure everything arrives fresh each morning. The market is like a living network, connecting the countryside with the city. Every basket of vegetables tells the story of a farmer. Every fish tells the story of someone who spent the night on a river or out at savory. Flour reminds us of the people who carefully grew it with patience and care. When we buy something here, we are supporting far more than one small business, are supporting an entire community. Today, supermarkets are becoming more modern. Online shopping is becoming faster. Many things can now be delivered directly to our homes. See it every morning. Traditional markets across Vietnam remain full of people, not because they reject modern life, but because they value something that technology cannot replace: human connection. A warm smile, a familiar greeting, a short conversation that brightens someone's morning. As I look around, I realize these markets are doing much more than selling food. They are preserving a way of life, a way of life where people still know their neighbors, where kindness is exchanged as often as money, where traditions quietly continue from one generation to the next. And perhaps that is why the traditional market still remains one of the most beautiful symbols of Vietnam. In the next part of our journey, we will discover how these markets continue to survive in a rapidly changing country. and why they remain one of the strongest links between Vietnam's past, present, and future. As I leave the market behind, I take one last look. Before continuing my journey, morning is now in full swing. The narrow walkways are still filled with people vendors continue calling out to familiar customer. Children hold their parents' hands while carrying small bags of fruit. Restaurant owners hurry back to prepare lunch. Life continues exactly as it has for generations. As I ride away, I begin to think about how much Vietnam has changed. Modern shopping malls can now be found in almost every major city. Convenience stores stay open day and night, and line shopping allows people to order almost anything with a few taps on a phone. The country is growing faster every year, but despite all these changes, traditional markets are still here, and every morning millions of Vietnamese people continue to visit them, not because they have no other choice, but because these markets offer something much more valuable than convenience. They offer a sense of belonging. Her people know each other's names. They remember familiar faces. They ask about your parents. They ask about your children's symptoms. A simple conversation is worth more than anything you can buy. That is something no supermarket can replace, perhaps. That is why traditional markets have survived for hundreds of years. They are not only places where people buy food, they are places where culture is protected, where traditions continue, and where communities stay connected. If one day you visit Vietnam, I hope you wake up early, skip the shopping malls for one morning, visit a local market, instead walk slowly through the narrow paths, listen to the friendly conversations, mull the fresh herbs and tropical fruit, sit down for a bowl of hot noodle soup, drink a cup of Vietnamese coffee, and simply watch everyday life unfold around you. We believe that is where you will discover the real Vietnam. Not the Vietnam of postcards, but the Vietnam that millions of people experience every single day. A Vietnam built on kindness, hard work, family, and traditions that continue to bring people together. Thank you for joining me on today's journey. I hope this walk through a traditional Vietnamese market has helped you understand not only how people shop, but how they live, how they connect, and how they preserve a culture that has been passed from one generation to the next. Until next time, stay safe, keep exploring, and never stop looking for the beautiful stories hidden inside ordinary life. We'll see you again very soon on another journey here on Inside Vietnam.